Alright, welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is still the press coming to you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. And now we've been joined by our very own Dr. Mefor, and together we shall be taking a look at the headlines we read out to you earlier. And this is also a reminder that our phone lines are open for you to call and join the conversation. Hello. Thank you so much for joining us again on the program. It's always good to have you.
Oh, yeah.
You saw the smile on my face when I introduced you, right?
I smile too.
It's always a pleasure.
Being here.
It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Well, we have lots of interesting headlines on our national day list today, but let's start with a very interesting one. And this is on the old Naira notes. CBN is insisting on January 31st deadline. Today is the 20th day of January, so we have just like 11 days to go. And lots of people have not even seen or come across the new Naira note. What are your thoughts on this? How do you see this policy panning out?
Well, like, past beautiful policies in Nigeria, they have often been messed up in implementation. I was in my bank just day before yesterday, and I was given the old
Naira notes.
Naira note. Hey, what is that? I asked. I said, why would you still be dispensing old Naira notes when we have just a few days to the termination of its validity? And they said I could get the new Naira note from the ATM. I said, that's not the point. You are my banker and you are giving me old Naira notes when you should be receiving from me and the other customers in order to meet the deadline set by the Central Bank of Nigeria. So something is fishy. Something is not sitting well. Because you cannot be dispensing old Naira notes, which you ought to be mopping up from the circulation, and turn round to blame the people you gave the old Naira notes for not bringing them back in. It doesn't add up. Something is not right. The only thing that would make sense to me, ultimately, is that there will be extension. That's what I want to see. Because you cannot say you have enough new Naira notes and you have set the deadline for the old ones to be turned in and new ones to be received, and you are still dispensing the same old Naira notes you are mopping up. It's not right. It is not logical. It doesn't make the policy a serious one. And I think they are creating a kind of a wider latitude for further confusion and conflict. Because those who received old Naira notes in Huja denominations in the past few days, even weeks, cannot be blamed by the end of the month if they are not able to meet the deadline. Because they just got the money from you anyway. You get the point?
Yes.
So it's not right. It is wrong. And I believe that Mefor, now that is back in the country, will have to really sit up and see to it that the balance of days we have at the moment, which today is 20th, I believe. So we have barely 10 days to the terminal date set for the new Naira notes to become fully the only legal tender in the Nigerian monetary system. So it goes back to the CBN. And if at the end of the month we are not able to turn in all our notes, nobody should blame Nigerians. We should blame CBN. We should blame the banks, because they are the ones still dispensing the old Naira notes. That's the much I can say.
Okay, while you were making your submission, you made mention of the fact that as Nigerians, we've had beautiful policies in the past, but it gets truncated at the point of implementation. On this old Naira notes, new Naira notes situation that we are right now, whereby the amount of the old Naira notes we have in circulation supersedes is way more than the amount of the new Naira notes in circulation, to the point that even in the banks, even in the various banks, they are still dispensing the old Naira notes at the counter. Even some of the ATMs are still dispensing the old Naira notes. Now, policy-wise, what do you think, or implementing at the point of implementation now, what do you think would have been done differently to ensure a seamless transition from this old Naira notes to the new Naira notes without having an impact on Nigerians and the Nigeria economy?
You see, for me, the recoloration policy, because that's what it is really. It's not entirely new notes. It is just the colors that are changed. And I don't see any rocket science in it. It's not a big deal. You change the colors, you withdraw the old ones, and they give the new. What that means is that for me, before you roll out the policy, the new notes ought to be in place, right? What that means is that you exchange. You get the point. Yeah. You exchange your old notes for the new ones. It's not just a matter of turning name. Do you understand what I'm saying? If you bring in $1 million naira old notes, you should be able to take $1 million naira new notes. That is how such policies are implemented. If you don't want that volume of money to be in circulation, then you should be able to give the individual the maximum amount that is allowed by the new policy and law. While banking for the individual, the excess, what the person brought in excess. That is what they ought to be. But there is evidence that you don't have enough of the new Naira notes. This is just the simple truth. You don't have enough of the new Naira notes. So why roll out the policy when you don't have the new Naira notes? You have made a mess of the whole thing. And that's why I said that the only logical way out of it will be to extend. And remember, if you are trying to stop vote buying and stuff like that, and that is one of the principal reasons why you injected this policy at this point in time. If you extend and it closes in on the election, that policy is already defeated. The amount being deployed to do this recoloration is so much, runs into billions. And the policy is not rolling out well. We need to, of course, let's say, to be fair to CBN, the policy itself witnessed a lot of resistance from the political class, who, of course, would prefer to do their politics with bullion vans. That is the truth. It's the political class. They are the ones who are doing this, and they don't want the policy now. They want the policy perhaps after the 2023 general elections. Why do they want it that way? Because they would need large volumes of money to go into the election. But that has always been the way they engage in the electoral process, electioneering, and possibly the way they also win. And that is what we mean by vote trade. And it has been advanced even by CBN. That is one of the reasons that because the politicians are holding on to so much money, Nigerians are holding on to so much money, what is out there in circulation is perhaps up to 70%. And it ought not to be so. What should be in the bank vaults, should be in the neighborhood of that 70%, which means it's a reverse, misending version. What that means is that what ought to be in the vaults of the banks is what you have out there. Why are Nigerians keeping so much money? I believe that there is a law, against money laundering. That law is not effectual. Why do I say so? People still buy a whole building with cash in Nigeria. One whole building, billions in cash. How? Where is that done? And why is it so? It's because of the source of such money. Nobody goes to the bank and asks for $1 billion naira, for what? There's no clean business that would require such volume of cash, being moved from the bank. All you need to do is to transfer, balance the books, debit here and credit there, and the transaction is done. But because of the paper trail, they don't want such, tracking. And that is why they will prefer cash. So if you hear that certain policies are being financed by government to get, for example, the corporation of the National Assembly. We are talking about cash. You see where the problem is? I read today where somebody is saying that they were bribed with $1 billion in National Assembly. You imagine that kind of a thing? 1 billion. 1 billion naira. You don't expect the legislators to give you the account details to be making such transfers. Because when EFCC begins to look at such things, what they look for is the money, is the paper trail. And what is the paper trail? The transfers. Who got credited, who got debited, and what is the reason? That is the simple question Bawa and his boys will be asking. We want to know what this transaction is all about. If you don't justify it, then it becomes illicit fund. Do you get the point?
Yes.
So everything is wrong about the policy implementation. The money doesn't seem to be there. People are fighting and Mefor. At a point, he even took his leave. He just got back, you know, took his leave, was away for 1 whole month, just came back, and the hiccups, he may need a few more days to be able to stabilize. But the question is, did they really print enough? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To deal with the kind of you know, the amount that is required to really roll out the policy. I suspected, you know, the first time they brought the maximum amount an individual can withdraw and pegged it at 100,000 naira per week, you know, and for corporate organizations 500,000 naira per week. I suspected that there was something fishy, you know, something fishy, no doubt about it. And under pressure, they were now forced to pull it up to 500,000 per individual per week, and 5 million for corporate organizations per week. For me, yes, you know, you may look at what you call you know, the face validity of such policies. You go with the Mefor. I don't fault the policy. It's important that we do something to bring the money back into the bank vaults. But again, I also want to see what mechanisms the CBN will put in place to ensure that the money that comes in doesn't leave the way they left in the first place.
place.
You understand that?
Yes.
So pegging of a maximum amount you have to really withdraw may be one way of doing it. But again, the cesspool of corruption in Nigeria is the Nigerian banking system. Do you understand that?
Yes.
The money will still go out there through the bank managers. That's what happens. The money will still go back there. And just 1 second. Are you also aware of the fact that as you trying to call back Naira from circulation, you are now pushing out the hard currencies out of the banking vaults into circulation? Because people are now exchanging their Naira for the dollar, euro, and pound. That's what's going on at the moment. So if you go to banks, you may not be able to find physical hard currency, because it is already out there. The same politicians are mopping up the hard currencies all over the place in exchange for the older Naira notes, which of course many of them would not be able to take back into banks, because they may have to ask certain questions as per the source of such money they are bringing in, because of the obscene amounts involved in this. You know, that's the much I can tell you on this. It's not it's not looking good at all.
In your speech, you made mention, or you pinpointed some political moves that might have distorted this policy, taking into consideration that he had to answer to the National Assembly, which are politicians at some point, and he's also still being called to come and defend the policy. So do you think, because we know that somehow this might not actually be feasible before the elections, so don't you think that a lot of politicking is going on in this process, which he might not be able to say much or do much on, because he has already soiled his hand in the system by earlier indicating his interest to run for president of Nigeria?
Yeah, that was a very wrong move, you know, trying to run for the presidency of Nigeria. I don't think I supported that move, because the office of the governor of a central bank anywhere in the country is a very conservative, apolitical office. You cannot be there as an incumbent and you are looking for the most competitive position, which is the
president.
The office of the president of that same country. It doesn't add up that way. The occupier of that office of the central bank of a country, is so isolated from politics. You don't run politics, policies based on politics from such office. Even the office of the Minister of Finance, who drives the physical policies of the country, it still has to be as apolitical as possible, because you are looking at the big picture,
general well-being,
political health, may not mean the same thing as economic health. The consideration of the drivers of the drivers of the fiscal policy, will have to pay attention, to the overall well-being of the people, But that is not what is going on at the moment. But you see, election is already upon us, and because it is already upon us, we need to bear in mind that whatever it is, that must be done to enable us conclude this election has to be done. And one of those things that must be done is to leave Mefor where he is. All the efforts, all the push and shove to get him out of office before election, as far as I'm concerned, is politically motivated. Nobody is doing that to help Nigeria or help Nigerian economy. Whatever it is, you just have to wait. Let me tell you, it is said in law that time does not run out on the clown. What that means is that any criminal action committed by an individual can be raked up anytime. So since the criminal allegations against the Mefor are not time barred in any way, let him be there until we are done with this election. Then we face such issues. Do you understand that? He was with the president yesterday to brief him on this and that, and I saw smiles on both faces. That reassured me that there may be no night of long daggers anytime soon, as long as the president is not disposed to pushing him aside before the election comes next month. He will be there, and I think it's important that he remains there. If he lives there, there may be dramatic turn of events. The acting, whoever you bring in as acting central bank governor, can cancel this policy. That's a fact. And they throw the whole process into turmoil. So there's no need for it. The office of the central bank, governor of Nigeria is so central because it goes even beyond the country itself. The world is watching our economy via the activities, through our monetary policies, which is driven by the central bank, and the fiscal policies driven by the Ministry of Finance and the allied ministries and agencies. For me, implementation is poor, but we can manage. I believe we can manage it. If Mefor doesn't have enough new currency to push into circulation to enable people exchange reasonable amounts, with their banks within this period, too bad, really too bad, and nobody knows what that would mean. If there is an extension and the extension pushes beyond the elections, one of the reasons why the recorrelation policy was even brought in the first place will be defeated. That's my ultimate fear.
Now let's move on to other stories now, as the petroleum marketers have come out to state reasons why the product is still very scarce in Nigeria right now. And in the words of the petroleum marketers, the executive secretary Clement Isong, he said the scarcity is due to the increase in demand. Now it brings me to the issue of the Petroleum Industry Act that was passed last year, talking about the fuel subsidy. That at some point the implementation was put on hold for some months again, but then between then till now we have seen steady increase in the price of the product. I want us to marry these two scenarios together. We have put the provisions of the act. We have put it on hold. The implementation on hold. Yet we see steady increase of this product, because as at now, from the NNPC, the price goes for 185 naira. In some states, it is sold for around 250 naira to 300 naira. And now the petroleum marketers are some of the major marketers are saying the depot price has hit 240. Can we put all this together and try to find a common ground for?
It's all about failed leadership. If the marketers are saying there is increase in demand, are they saying there is dramatic increase in the number of vehicles on Nigerian roads? It's a very dumb risk because offered. Do you understand what I'm saying? There is, in fact, car dealers will tell you that there is drop in demand because of skyrocketing exchange rates and all that. And Tokumbo vehicles are foreign exchange dependent. What that means is that we don't have dramatic or significant increase in the number of vehicles on Nigerian roads. So the issue of increase in demand does not arise. Do you get the point? The fact remains that the federal government is in a dilemma. They are trying to find a way of blackmailing or compelling Nigerians to accept deregulation and removal of oil subsidy. This is what this whole drama is all about. It's as simple as that. And for me, that market dance should stop. It should end. Remove the subsidies. We won't die. You get the point? After all, you're already buying for more than 300 naira, right? Everywhere. I traveled, I had a car on the road, and we knew how we sourced fuel going and coming. It was average of 300 naira per liter. So why don't you just remove, your hands from all this? In fact, petroleum subsidy in Nigeria is an organized fraud. You understand that? The amount they tell you, you go and check this, the proposed 2023 budget. The amount budgeted for subsidy is well over 3 trillion. Then you ask yourself, how much does it take to construct a brand new refinery? You discover that the amount you deploy to oil subsidy in a year can give you a refinery. What that means is the last 7 years, Buhari could actually have constructed 7 refineries.
7 refineries.
Do you understand that? And subsidy did not start with the Buhari administration. It's been there since 1999, and perhaps even before then. So you discover that some people feed fat off it. What you call cash cow is a process through which those who control the government tills, coffers. That's how they source money they deploy to certain things. When you talk about proposed vehicles and stuff, it's not only government companies that are set up and contract patronages, pushed to those places in order to raise money to finance certain things government wants to do under the table. You see this NNPC is #1 cash cow of the federal government. Why? Okay, ask yourself, how come right from the days of of Obasanjo. Obasanjo said that he was the Minister of Petroleum. Why do you think so? It's because he wants to be on top of what goes on there. And, has been ministers of the petroleum improved a petroleum supply? He has not. That shows you that is not the aim. The aim is the income and expenditure and process that goes on there. NNPC cannot tell you the precise number of barrels, right, of crude Nigeria exports. Our OPEC quota is about 1.9, 1.9 to 2 million barrels a day. But officially, we are told that Nigeria is exporting 1.2 million barrels
per day.
Do you understand what I'm saying? Meanwhile, there are official, unofficial processes. Do you know why I said official, unofficial? It's unofficial because the stealing of crude is known to the official quarters. Because it takes a whole tanker to come into Nigerian continental shelf and they load and go. To load certain tankers may take as long as a week. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And they load and they leave. You cannot access Nigerian marital routes without being given clearance to come in. So who gives the clearance? So if you see illegal pipelines, with which they siphon crude from Nigeria, you cannot install such illegal pipelines without official sources being aware of it. If they are aware of it and allowed it, they are part of the cartel. They know what is going on. In summary, therefore, let's face reality. In summary, therefore, in fact, I've often said, February 25th is the presidential election. It's already upon us. Can we just pray and manage and drag to that point? Because once you have a president-elect, right, we have a brand new hope. Brand new hope, brand new policies, and all that. And the three frontline presidential candidates have all said they don't want to continue oil subsidy. That's it. Nigerians have been blackmailed enough with oil subsidy. Let it go. We will not die. Now, but let me even draw your attention to something else that is related to it. You see, Dangote refinery is set. It will roll out, before April. And it has capacity to take care of, Nigerian
petrol needs,
petroleum, fuel needs, consumption needs by more than 500%, going by the capacity of the refinery. But of course, they will tell you that Dangote's fuel will be more expensive. Why? Because Dangote will be made to buy Nigerian crude at the international market price. Who does that? Do you understand what I'm saying? That's why I said it's a cartel. You just don't understand such policies. If Dangote, a Nigerian, yes, he's a businessman, why don't you barter with him? Do you understand what I'm saying? If indeed this government wants to be on the side of the Nigerian masses, they are not on the side of the Nigerian masses. Because you can give Dangote crude for free. He gives you fuel in exchange. That's trade by barter. You don't need to pay a dime. He's making his money because he's not paying you for the crude. I've often said this. Somebody tells me, well, you see, to be against, OPEC policies and stuff. For God's sake, is Nigeria supposed to be in OPEC? If you have internal crisis, internal energy crisis, economic crisis, and your economy is oil dependent, and OPEC is your problem, why don't you exit OPEC?
From OPEC.
Qatar is not in OPEC. I can list a number of countries that are not in OPEC, and yet they are major oil producers. Why? Because they find OPEC policies as anti-economic health of their people. So why is Nigeria insisting on remaining in OPEC? Why is Nigeria insisting on selling our crude to Dangote refinery at international market price? These are germane questions Nigerians ought to be asking. So, like I said, let the blackmail end. Let us pray and work towards this government exiting. Because the government for me should be the worst in Nigerian history. Anyhow you look at it. You know, check when they came in, right? When they came in 2015, rice 8,000, rice today 40,000. Fuel, you know, fuel was about was it 97,000? 97 naira per liter. Fuel today is 300. You know, exchange rate was around 190 to 197. Today is 740 to 150. If there is no area of Nigerian economy, you know, social life, that we have any form of respite, all the sectors have essentially collapsed. Look at insecurity everywhere. In fact, Nigerian police appears so helpless. Look at bomb blasts at APC rally in a Port Harcourt yesterday. You can imagine the level of temerity that non-state actors have developed under this administration. You manufacture bomb and you throw it at all, and there's no consequence. No, you know, the political space is so emasculated. Look at the process as it is now. Concerned Nigerians should be worried about this election if it holds it. Do you know that there is a level? I raised that fear. People shouted it down, but the fear is there. Is evident that you take this thing to a level. You take this insecurity to a level, you may not be able to hold election, because the Constitution, you know, clearly spells out the conditions that must be met before a president can be declared. So if you are not able to hold election in a minimum of 24 states in Nigeria, you can't produce the president. It's the Constitution. So, you know, even though there is a small opening that if you can't hold the election, if there is state of anarchy, you know, there is elongation of the tenure of the president. And Nigerians are aware of this. That Buhari may not leave on May 29th. If they want Buhari to leave, they must create the conditions for this election to hold. Otherwise, there will be justifiable condition to declare state of emergency. Once that happens, the National Assembly is bound by the Nigerian Constitution to elongate the tenure of this administration. That means elongation of our suffering. That is what it means. So we need to all work together. Help Nigerian police to succeed. Help the army to succeed. Help security to work. How do so that this election, at our own levels, keep talking to, you know, as we are discussing it now, we are already appealing for peace. That is the way of talking about it. Your station should keep pushing for peace. Other stations should be doing the same. NGOs, individuals, opinion leaders. Let us prevail on the non-state actors to give the space for this election to come and go. Otherwise, I don't know. But
it's not about the election coming and going, because you made mention of Nigerians just trying to push through to the election. Then after the election, it gives some kind of hope. But that doesn't fix the issue of corruption, because in all of our conversations that we have today, one thing that I can take away from it is that corruption is one of the major problems of Nigeria. So it doesn't change with the government.
Do you know the reason we have corruption in Nigeria? You know, Obasanjo gave us the reason why we are where we are. Obasanjo said Nigeria is a country and not yet a nation. So, without the issue of nationhood being reasonably resolved, you will not have citizens. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Citizenship of a country is not just because they said you are a Nigerian. Do you feel like you one?
All right, Dr. Law, very quickly now, because our time is fast spent. Personally, I'm of the school of thought that without the past, there can be no present, and without the present, there will be no future. So, talking about the statements of President Olusegun Obasanjo, the role our past leaders have played in getting us to the point
where we are
now is well documented. So for whatever comments anyone is going to make, I believe it's going to be more valid when they make their comments and talk about the roles they played in getting us to the point where we are now. And then quickly, in 2 minutes, I would want you to talk about Atiku's the presidential candidate of the People's Democratic Party. His campaign in Oyo State, in Oyo State, where he made some comments about. He said in his words, he said supporting a governorship candidate or a presidential candidate or a House of Reps candidate, senatorial candidate, does not guarantee appointments or contracts, and he has received a lot of backlash from different quarters of the nation. Some have said that he's already laying a precedent for a corrupt administration should he emerge winner come February 25th. What's your view on this very
I see it differently. You see, I had him, and what he said was a direct way of telling his supporters to work hard to win the election. And you make sure you win your polling unit. Win it. If you win it, we'll count you in. You know, appointments and contracts will have to be done by somebody. And of course, you are certain that in a presidential democracy, you have a team that delivered, you know, the president, right? That team that delivered the president will have to form government with the president. That is the way it is in a presidential democracy. And it's already giving indications that if you want to rule in my government, deliver. If you don't deliver, you may not be able to justify your request or your demand to join.
But a section of Nigeria believes that that is part of the problem. These are part of the problem that has gotten Nigeria to where we are now, because you get support from a section of the country and you feel indebted to them.
That's the way it is. Listen, in a presidential democracy, like I said, the president will hire and fire. Right? He has that power. There are some appointments that are guaranteed by the Constitution, right? Like ministers must come from. Beyond that, the rest will be generally discretionary. Do you understand that? He has to work with the people he knows. That's the way it is.
Thank you very much.
And there are certain appointments that require, being thrown upon, requires some technicalities, expertise, and so on and so forth. Those are not the kind of considerations he's talking about. But those who would naturally believe that they worked for this election and that they should form part of the government, he is saying, this is the proof I need. If you don't give me that proof, don't call with such a request. I agree with Atiku Abubakar.
Thank you very much for your time.
I think we should just draw the curtain here, because I was going to say then at the end of the day, we still we'll come back here and we're talking about nepotism.
It's not nepotism. It's not nepotism. You are a presidential nepotism means, sectional considerations for certain things. It's not. It's so sectional in this case because he is talking about the whole country. You have a pool of course, he cannot work with 200 million Nigerians. You have to work with people he knows. Where you have to worry is where he now leaves the appointment only to a section of the country. That is where nepotism comes in. But as long as he spreads it to the entire country, it's not nepotistic. And it is what it should be. A president will have to work with those he knows, and those their competence and their expertise can be vouched for by certain confirmatory authorities. That is what it should be. Once he's able to marry that, he will have a team that is nationalistic and will deliver on the demands required by Nigerians for a proper and significant change to take place post 2023.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your thoughts and your contributions on the topics raised. It's amazing, always amazing talking to you. Thank you so much for coming.
The pleasure is always mine.
All right, with that, we'll draw the curtain today on the press, reaching you live from the Abuja studios of KAFTAN Television. Till we come your way next time, I am Sandra Agu.
And I am Francis Adeni. You do well to have a beautiful weekend ahead of you.